Hey, welcome to KUAM's Decision 2014. I'm Jess Lujan, your host. I'd like to introduce the producer of my show, JC Kin Conception. I'd like to introduce also the candidates for this morning, the candidate buzz. We have incumbent Senator Chris Duenas
Buenas. Nice to be here, Senator Jeff.
and senatorial candidate Nerissa Underwood. Good morning.
Buenas in half a day.
Hey, thank you again, sir, ma'am, for coming in this morning. And I think we decided that women are going to go first, right?
Sure.
There we go.
Okay, well.
Go ahead and talk to the people of Guam. Tell them who you are, your name, not that they don't already know, what part side of the ballot, your number, and your platform for the 33rd Guam Legislature.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Nerissa Bretania Underwood, and I am a resident of Tamuning. I was born in the Philippines. I was raised here in Guam. I went to Agate Junior High and Mount Carmel, raised in Agate and Santa Rita. I have lived here over 50 years. I have actually served not only as a superintendent, but way back as a sales clerk, a stock girl, and moved on to be a teacher and administrator. But all of that progression has happened because there were opportunities that were provided to me, and there was fair treatment so that I was able to take advantage of the opportunities. So my platform is really this. I believe that everyone has the potential to succeed. I also believe that if I was able to do it, to move from public assistance to being a contributing taxpayer as superintendent of education, that other people can do so if we provide them the opportunities, we provide them the programs and the support to make their lives better. So I thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Okay, thank you. Senator, you have a minute 5.
Sure. And so just want to say talo, Senator Jess, and to all the family here, Isla 63 and the KUAM stations, for this opportunity to open up our lives, to speak to the people, and of course ask for their consideration this upcoming election. I am Christopher M. Duenas. I am the son of now late Ricardo Camacho Duenas. Unfortunately, the Lord had taken my dad several weeks ago, but I know he's up in heaven now praying for us. I have 16 years of private sector business experience in the tourism industry primarily, and so I combine that now with 12 years of public service. First of all, 8 years in the executive branch under the Camacho administration, and now in my second term at the Guam legislature. I have spent almost all of my public service career helping people, particularly our most disadvantaged, our youth, at Department of Youth Affairs as the director there, trying to rebuild their lives through education, training opportunities, and just transformation of life, even faith-based programs that we implemented while I was there at Department of Youth Affairs. And then moving over to Department of Land Management, one of the key issues that we addressed there was addressing technology and making it easier for our people to access information with regard to their properties, and so that they could have the highest and best use and see opportunities for economic development. We also brought in the Chamorro Land Trust and ancestral lands to be able to help our people to grow their opportunity to build their homes on Chamorro Land Trust property, and also people to recoup their compensation for lands taken by the federal government. Senator Jess, I've spent my career now in public service helping people. I've also concentrated on issues regarding cost of living, implementing policies that ensure that the governor had an opportunity to return people's tax funds to them, millions of dollars. And so those efforts that I have moved forward in public service, helping families, helping people, helping folks cope with the cost of living on Guam, and I'll continue to do that moving forward.
Thank you. And Dr. Underwood, I'll have you make up that time as well when it comes. That's your turn.
That was a long minute.
That was a long minute. Yeah, that was a long 2 minutes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyways, Senator, let me start with you. This questioning with you now. We just started school here this week, as a matter of fact. I think it was just yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's in today's publication, where the superintendent had appeared or appeals to the legislature
Mhm.
to find a designated source of funding. Keen and I were talking this
Mhm.
past week. This is a great start of the school year. Superintendent
Yes.
Fernandez has done a great job.
Mhm.
He started on time.
Yes.
Schools are open, the ones that had to have rehab and new schools and things like that. So he's done a great job. But he's asked the senators, the legislature, to find a designated source of funding because there still are the challenges, most especially, again, power and water,
Yeah.
and power being on top of that.
Yes.
Sure. Well, you know, the legislature has implemented a number of different policies, and I understand the issue with regard to funding source. Let's just be clear. We all draw from the same funding source when it comes to education and the operations of this government. That's the general fund. Now, we're talking about power. I know this won't happen overnight, but legislation was passed to allow them to be able to go out and market their capability now of renewable energy. They have the opportunity to bring down their utility costs. Some estimates from companies who have approached my office of up to 50%. That's long term. In the short term, I think really what it comes down to is allotment release. And so as we go forward, we're now in what they end up having to experience, of course, is the end of the fiscal year. They've asked for a supplemental budget. I think the legislature needs to go down and work with the administration, work with the Department of Administration, get them the resources they need. If, as you see moving forward now, as if this budget passes as it is, it's an additional $10 million that the legislature has recognized. So I think it's cash management, but it's also response. The administration has to respond, legislature has to respond for their needs that arise. But overall, I think we've all done cash management quite well.
Thank you. Dr. Underwood, you got 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes.
You have 2
This is
minutes.
regarding
Sure.
the opening of the school year.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I do want to congratulate Superintendent John Fernandez, really, and all the educators and parents who helped to prepare the opening of school. The shortage of funds is not any news. We have experienced that. But I believe that the Department of Education has really been very transparent at this point about where the monies are going. And so when they say we are short, that means that they really are in need of the funds. And I am all for providing them the support. And I do know that they have a new financial management system that really has made the cash management far more efficient than it ever was. And so I congratulate them.
Okay. All right. Okay. You didn't take 2 minutes, but that's all right. Okay. Let me start with you again. This question now. Come January, the minimum wage will take effect. The legislature had passed that. Based on Guam's unemployment rate at this point, where is Guam's unemployment rate at this point? Implementation of the minimum wage. They said this was implemented based to have parity on the folks here in Guam, mostly in the lower end. That being said, this is a twofold question. That being said, if that is true, then the implementation of the minimum wage going into effect come January, that will reflect on Guam's GDP on its first quarter. Based on the Guam's again unemployment rate, what do you think that minimum wage will translate to the decreasing of Guam's unemployment rate? What percentage do you think that will drop in the first quarter based on parity?
Wow, that's such a difficult question to address right now. I do know that, and I have to say that I don't know the answer to that question. I can't predict, but I do know that I support the increase of the minimum wage, even based on my own personal life, having been there where I was on public assistance and making minimum wage. I believe that our people deserve that. I'm not sure about the impact on our economy, but I do know that with the high cost of utilities and the high cost of housing, that we do need to provide extra support for our people who are really barely making it. So that increase right now is really long overdue. We have had increases in our cost of living, but the minimum wage has pretty much stayed the same. So pardon me for not being able to answer that twofold question, but that's where I stand right now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Underwood. Senator?
Sure. You know, on the reports, basically on a monthly, sometimes quarterly basis by Bureau of Statistics and Plans, we kind of can track where GDP is going, what kind of product is coming in and out of the island, with the tourism reports that we're getting in terms of the economy, the expansion, contraction of jobs. So we can kind of follow along with that. You know, that's one of the reasons why the Republicans were the ones who moved forward to offer the compromise when the first proposal was put forward with regard to this minimum wage. And so we talk about twofold. We approached this in a twofold basis. We said we will agree that what was equivalent to basically the first increment of the original proposal going all the way up to 10.15, we would say the first increment at $1, but we would cap it there. And then we would use what you've discussed. Research-based, Senator Yamashita introduced a bill right after we passed that bill to say, let's research this, let's take a look, and ensure that we don't do exactly the opposite of what we intended to do, and that's to lose jobs, to curtail and bring down unemployment and increase employment. So I think a responsible approach and a constant monitoring of our economy is what needs to happen before we make any additional drastic moves. But I certainly appreciate the fact that we needed to increase it by
Okay,
by
but
that
no,
dollar.
stay with that, along that, those line of questionings and answer and reasoning. There's been argument back and forth by both Republican side and the Democrat side in regards to a comprehensive study that needs to be had prior to increasing the minimum wage, and what the pros and the cons, the unintended consequences that may come from that. And rarely is it talked about the gross national product, basically, or the GDP, Guam's GDP. Now, based on that, now, what was Guam's GDP prior to the income administration, prior to coming in here, and where is it at today? Because that will give us an indication on where that minimum wage should fall. Should it be $1 increase, $3 increase, that was once proposed over a 3-year period? So again, that being said, where was Guam's GDP 4 years ago versus now? And that will give us a good indication, because an increase in GDP was basically, there's more money in everybody's pockets.
Sure.
Less money means we're really going into a recession.
Well, and that was the thing. We were using anecdotal information, or that's what was used, I think, when the first proposal was put forward. And so I can say from our side of the house, what we did was we engaged with the business community. They came in, and the reason why we ended up without the actual chart flow, if you would, in terms of the GDP and using that as the benchmark, what we did was we used the testimony during the public hearings, and we engaged the business community within the community basis in terms of the public hearing, and also meetings with the business community. What they said to us was, minimum wage is an entry-level wage. We have robust training programs in our companies. The average employee will get a $1 raise regardless within 90 days of employment, because we want to keep these employees, especially those that are performing well. So at this time, I would say that the reasoning that was brought about accomplishing that implementation of the first $1 raise was based on the testimony by the businesses. But you're absolutely right. Going forward, that's why we introduced legislation to make sure that this is more precise, and to ensure that the economy can bear it, and we don't end up moving in the opposite direction of the intended direction.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Underwood. You got
so,
a minute 15?
Yeah, okay. Well, so basically, my common sense input to this is that, just having been there again, when we received an increase in our salaries, you know what, for those of us in the lower end, it went right back into the economy, because we just didn't have enough to save or to spend elsewhere. So it went right back into the economy. We spent it. So I do believe that we do need to focus on the impact of the increase starting January, and to see where we are at and what that would do for our economy. But for the most part, my concern really at this point is that our people are able to make their ends meet.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Dr. Underwood. Stick with you in this question here. Your understanding of cabotage laws and the Jones Act in general, is it proper that we still are under the cabotage laws, rules, and regulations? Is it, again, something that is very vital for Guam's existence? At your thoughts on that, and if it is vital for Guam's existence, why? And if it's not, why not?
Okay. Well, I do know that leaders like you in the past have really worked very hard in trying to deal with this and trying to get Guam exempted. We've already had the Virgin Islands and CNMI, and my understanding is that the impact that they had hoped in terms of their economy from getting the exemption has not really been significant. Now, for us here, it's a different story. Of course, we want to have competitive rates. We want to be able to lower the cost of our goods and the services. But moving this and getting the exemption, given the kind of work that individuals like you, leaders like you have already put into it, I believe that we do need to try a different approach. It starts here in Guam. So if we had, if our delegate had not been successful in addressing this, and then even with your push at the time that you were at the legislature, then perhaps we need to appeal to our general public. But also in combination with what Dr. Yamashita had noted earlier, that we need to mobilize the Guamanians who are in Guam and who have families here to also put the pressure on their leaders there so that we can address this. I am all for exploring the extent to which we can minimize the cost for our airline services and be more competitive. And so, you know, that's basically where
Okay. Thank you. A little bit of correction here, just again, because this is something in my neck of the woods, is that our delegate was not quite successful in her effort. Well, no, she was very successful in effort because she fought against us. She fought against us against acquiring full exemption of the cabotage. So her efforts were very successful, 100%, on us not being granted.
Okay.
Senator Jess, I too followed your efforts and applaud you. I want to start by saying it's very clear. I believe all of us should be for bringing about the lowest possible, travel fares and to help our people with that regard, especially those who are traveling for medical needs and other emergency-based travel, not just pleasure and vacations. What I did following on your efforts, Senator Jess, is work with the airport. Currently, Chuck Atta and his team are looking at opportunities and expanding opportunities for foreign investment. When you look at programs such as the EB-5, which allows for corporations to explore moving their businesses to Guam, this may actually be the way to bring about this type of change, because the airport has a lot of real estate, a lot of assets, and they can move forward in really kind of positioning themselves to be more attractive. Now, it will take legislation on the federal level, but I think when you look at this approach, you got Undersecretary Work now. He's committed to our China visa waiver in terms of that effort. How much more would it be to say, under a foreign investment program, we can start integrating additional carriers to Guam? I think it's very realistic, it's research-based, and that's the opportunities that I'll explore so that we can put more on the table for the federal government to have to come and meet us and say, we'll work with you on that issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator, now I'll start with you again.
Sure.
Hospital,
Yep.
GMH. I'm reading today, Mr. Berger has a problem that his personnel being recruited. He's got 1,000 people over there, supposedly. Okay, he just recently, I think it was just last night's news that an MOU is going to be signed with St. Luke's to partner up. I applaud those efforts, and I'm sure you do as well.
Sure.
To be able to bring expertise back here to Guam that we don't already have, and to be able to to again save on some of the expenses that our residents here have to incur to go off island for treatment. That's applaudable. It's a great thing to do. The problem is here is that when I was chairing, vice chairing the committee on health, Senator Cruz at the time was the chair. He called it was a bucket full of holes. Well, that bucket has become bottomless at this point. It has taken over DOE's financial situation. Now the hospital has moved into that neighborhood. Expertise is great, fantastic. We're gonna have to pay for it. If we don't find the bottom for that bucket, we're still gonna have that. And what's gonna happen is the folks who are not paying are gonna continue to be serviced, or continue to be cared for without paying. It's gonna be the people who do pay that they would again be burdened with the additional payment. So the payers, the payers will be burdened with this. The non-payers will continue to enjoy the benefits. Are you willing to sit down here and really come to Jesus and say,
Amen.
look, and say,
Amen.
Amen. I think we should be getting out of this business. It's probably not a business we should be in. We're not very good at this, and maybe somebody else can do a better job, and we do a quasi or all out, give it to them. You can write it better than us because it has been proven year after year after year after year. We're just not doing a very good job.
Senator, I would say you need an amen and a hallelujah. Okay, but look, let's start from the beginning. This legislature has at every corner stepped up to the plate to last budget season and going all the way back since I've been a senator to ensure that this hospital is fiscally sustainable at this point. But you're absolutely right. It's worse than a sieve. The holes are just gaping. You hit on a number of different points. Let's start from the beginning. We always knew that the blessing and the challenge of the new hospital would be we need it because we need the bed space, regardless of the buildup or not. But it would also bring the challenges of siphoning off the paying customers, the insured paying patients. So we're going to see that challenge. I always advocated for a working group. Folks said we got it under control. So leaping to your point, the bottom line is first and foremost, let's be clear about this. One of the reasons why under the QC that was awarded, we made sure that this new hospital and they remain committed to indigent care. So there shouldn't be this gulf of disparity when it comes to indigent care. Second point, you're exactly right. I say the first thing we do is open up the hospital to public-private partnerships to see what the consortium of the medical community out there will be willing to look at the hospital and possibly invest, okay? If that continues not to work, then Jesse, I think that for the people of Guam, it's inevitable that at some point we move forward and sustain that hospital through privatization. Now, let's be clear. We have to have a city hospital. We have to have a mandate that no person ever gets turned away for any reason. So let's make sure that that's built into the model if we end up there. But I believe a public-private partnership is something that can really work.
Thank you. Dr. Underwood, you have a minute 45.
A minute 45.
Yes.
Thank you
Sorry
very
about
much.
that.
Well, actually, we have been working on the hospital and improving that way back in early 1990s. Governor Ada had actually given me the honor to serve as a board of trustee, and at that time we were working towards accreditation, and many years later we finally had gotten the accreditation. I really, having worked in DOE where we were constantly under scrutiny and criticism, I would hesitate to prescribe anything at this point, not knowing the intricacies of the financial management system, the individuals that are working there, and so on, because it is far more complex when you actually get into the system itself. I do believe, just as Senator Chris had noted, that we do have to have a hospital that will take in, that will serve everyone, whether they can pay or not. And so that's a commitment that we need to make. But we have to examine and we have to talk with the individuals within the hospital itself, as I'm sure the dialogue has already started. But there are also these external entities, like the accreditation entities, the organizations, Medicare, that come in and examine and provide information about what needs to be improved. So I think we have information there, and get the collective group together and come up with a solution. But I would hesitate to prescribe something right now that I'm not
Okay.
as intimate with.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me ask you this question here. Just recently, you know, you've read and you've probably heard some of the comments from previous candidates that were here.
Mm-hmm.
It was just last week that the Obama administration filed the amicus brief based on a citizenship issue, okay,
Mm-hmm.
the American Samoa. But it's applicable to us as well. Something we've always known, we've known for the longest time, but now ink has been put to paper. And really now we have documentation that says we are 100% domestic and international and second-class citizens, all at one time, okay? And Obama has said so himself. That being said, isn't this not a wake-up call again for us to pursue political self-determination? And if it is, or if it isn't, but if it is, what will you do in the 33rd Guam legislature to ensure that we make sure we do that? And your understanding of the three statuses, what would you prefer in any of those three status? And explain to the people again what status you would prefer should that day come.
Okay.
Dr. Underwood?
Well, first and foremost, I believe in the Chamorro right to self-determination. That has not been exercised yet, and so to the extent that I have migrated to Guam, I would hesitate to prescribe to the Chamorro people the political status that they should choose. The amicus brief has indeed had, again, underscored the fact that we are second-class citizens, we are domestic, we are kind of, you know, we have confused identities. Sometimes we're good, so sometimes we're first class when they need our strategic position here militarily. Yeah, but everybody else. But you see, for everything, for every change, there's always a consequence. So if we want to be first-class citizens, my understanding is that we want to be like stateside, then are we willing to then pay the federal taxes that they pay? Are we willing to pay the cost? And so these are all a lot of the complex issues that we would have to address, but I believe that it is time for the political status to be addressed, and I also believe that it's the Chamorros who should exercise that right. My family and I, having left the Philippines, have exercised our right to self-determination. We wanted closer ties with the U.S. The Philippines had exercised their right to self-determination by wanting to be independent and becoming independent from the U.S. So until we exercise that here in Guam and it is addressed immediately, then all of these other issues will continue to come up. We're going to stay as we are. And
Okay, thank you. Minute 45.
Sure. And you know, so Senator Jess, you've pointed out once again, and you're absolutely right. The clear statement from the amicus brief is once again that there is total ambiguity when it comes to those outside of the contiguous states, and even to include Hawaii and Alaska. You know, I say no more back burner for this issue. The bottom line is, that's absolutely right. Chamorro self-determination has to be determined and move forward. But I think it can move in tandem with the overall vote and moving forward to make sure that we all speak, but in line with the fact that this is Isla, the land of the Chamorros, and needs to be led by that effort. But the government itself has to recognize and bring forward this issue and not back burner the issue anymore. I kind of take a different approach from my good friend here on the issue of, are we ready for the implications of a greater federal relationship? I've always been an advocate for a closer relationship to the federal government because I'm proud to be part of the greatest nation in the world. The thing is the greatest nation in the world sometimes forgets its children. And so the bottom line is that we have 1/3 of this land that is, set aside for the defense of the nation. I don't think that we fall into the category of those who would not maybe pay some forms of taxes that other United States individuals do that have ever given up a third of their economic power with all of its pristineness and all of its ability to make tourism go through the roof if we didn't otherwise have to have our national security. So the fact of the matter is that I believe that we can get past those implications of tax issues, and we can make this determination at once and for all. And I believe that it will be in favor of all of our people, most especially those who deserve it, our Chamorros.
Well, we come to that time. We've got to say goodbye. Thank you very much for coming in here. But I tell you what, we're going to start with you now. So go ahead and tell people, Guam again, who you are, what side of the ballot you're on, your number, and what be one of the first things you do should you be reelected to the 33rd Guam legislature.
Sure. Sidus Masitatlu, Senator Jess, and to the people of Guam. I am Chris Duenas. I'm currently serving as your senator in the 32nd Guam legislature. I'm asking you for an opportunity once again to serve you in the 33rd Guam legislature. I will continue to work hard every day on the things that I've already worked on, making sure that your quality of life is better, making sure that you get health care that you deserve, and to make sure nobody gets left behind, to make sure that educational system continues to be funded and provide opportunities for our children, to ensure that our streets are safe, and do that by using common sense policy in the legislature as I have in the last 4 years. I also will never stop working on issues that face your cost of living. I will continue to work on bringing power rates down through incentives, through renewables, and I will continue to work on initiatives that bring about government reform to reduce government expenditures and put more money in your pocket so that you can have the quality of life that you and your family deserve. I'm Chris Duenas. I humbly ask for your support in this upcoming election. I'm number 1 on the Republican side of the ballot.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Underwood.
Just
give you time to make up for his long...
Thank you. Thank
ahead,
you
please.
so much. I'm Nerissa Bretania Underwood. As I had noted earlier, I was born in the Philippines. I was raised in Agate and Santa Rita. And I went to school in Mount Carmel and Agate Junior High. I have lived here over 50 years, and I have really been humbled by the kind of acceptance that I have received from the Chamorro people. I have been able to move from being a sales clerk and a minimum wage earner and a single parent of 3 children in public assistance, moving from that all the way to being a teacher, an administrator, and superintendent of education. All of that was possible because of my faith in God, because of the programs that were made available to me, and because of the fair treatment and the support of my family. And so I want to provide the same opportunities to all the people here in Guam. I believe that all of you, each one, has a potential to succeed. And the more that we can succeed and we can increase the people who are contributing to our economy, the more successful that Guam will be and the stronger that we will be. Okay. I am Nerissa Bretania Underwood. I'm number 15 in the Democratic side. And please vote for me and my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you both.
That's
going to do it for our senatorial candidates. We're going to join me tomorrow. We're gonna shift into the delegate to Washington, of course, candidates tomorrow in studio. Will be joining me. Will be incumbent delegate Madeline Berdalio, alongside Democrat candidate to the delegate's office as well, Matthew Artero. That's tomorrow morning, right here on the Candidate Buzz. You can view this show tonight as well on local channel 2 at 7:30. Likewise, it'll be highlighted on KUAM Primetime. It'll be available on KUAM's YouTube channel, and tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. on KUAM TV8. You can watch a rebroadcast of these 2 candidates on the Candidate Bus. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, and thank you again, and good luck in this upcoming, actually, it's less than 2 weeks away, right?
Yeah, 10 days, I
like
believe.
10 days, we're counting.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.